Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We begin with a fresh twist in the India-US trade deal. Washington has thrown another curveball. It has released a fact sheet that throws up more questions. Our pulse is part of the deal. What about the $500 billion target? Is it binding? We look at what the US has claimed and why India's lack of response is leading to confusion. Also tonight, 48 hours before the election, Muhammad Yunus secures a trade deal with the United States for Bangladesh. But can Dhaka afford it? In the UK, is this the beginning of the end for Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister? Names of his potential replacements are doing the rounds. In West Asia, the Iran-US tensions are back in focus and oil prices are climbing. What's the India-Greece defense deal? Is it aimed at Turkey? What's the crypto shocker from South Korea? $40 billion in Bitcoin sent by mistake. What's Nvidia's cloud gaming? Will it take off in India? Why protests erupted in Australia over the visit of the Israeli president? Why tensions are rising in the Horn of Africa? Ethiopia says Eritrean troops crossed the border. And is your diabetes test misleading you? A new study raises serious questions. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. China asks Japan's newly elected Prime Minister to show concrete action before dialogue can begin. This comes after Senator Kaichi said she was open to talks with Beijing. China wants the Japanese premier to retract the November comments first. Takaichi said that Tokyo could intervene militarily if Beijing attacks Taiwan. In India, more than 100 opposition lawmakers seek to remove the Speaker of the lower house of Parliament, or the Lok Sabha. They have filed a no-confidence motion against Om Birla after accusing him of acting in a partisan manner. The leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi, has reportedly not signed this petition. Investigators raid South Korea's spy agency as they search for the source of a drone incursion into North Korea. The incident threatens Seoul's efforts to mend ties with Pyongyang. The South Korean president has vowed to stop these provocations. He has even suggested a rare apology may be warranted. French President Emmanuel Macron wants to include European partners as he looks to restart dialogue with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Just days ago, the French president had sent a top advisor to Moscow. Macron and Putin last spoke in July 2025. It was their first known phone call in more than 2 years. And European lawmakers back plans for a digital euro. The project has been in the making for around 6 years. Initially, it had split the European Union, but it has now gained urgency as the bloc seeks to reduce its dependence on American firms. Every trade deal is subject to scrutiny. It is dissected, it is analyzed, and it is endlessly judged. But this India-US trade deal is on a different level altogether. It has triggered confusion and questions like no other. Let me show you the latest update. Late on Monday, the White House released another document on this deal. It is what they call a fact sheet. It reveals new details about the India-US trade agreement. At the same time, it triggers new questions. We'll bring you the details first. The US has already lifted the 25% punitive tariffs on India. This tariff was imposed in August last year. It was meant to punish India for buying Russian oil, 25% tariff. The White House says this tariff was lifted last Friday. That's when President Donald Trump signed the relevant executive order. So that's 25% tariff gone. What about the remaining 25% tariff? Well, that order has not been signed yet. Reports say it may happen in the coming days or weeks. And once signed, it will reduce India's tariffs to 18%. Those are the two new pieces of information from the White House. Now we come to the confusion. The first confusing point is on agriculture. Look at the joint statement that came over the weekend, the India-US joint statement. This is what it said. India will eliminate or reduce tariffs on all US industrial goods and a wide range of US food and agricultural products, including dried distillers' grains, red sorghum for animal feed, tree nuts, fresh and processed fruit, soybean oil, wine and spirits, and additional products. This was a statement that came late on Friday. Now look at yesterday's White House fact sheet. This is what it says. I'm quoting again. India will eliminate or reduce tariffs on all US industrial goods and a wide range of US food and agricultural products, including dried distillers' grains, red sorghum, tree nuts, fresh and processed fruit, certain pulses, soybean oil, wine and spirits, and additional products. Do you notice the difference? The White House has added a new category, certain pulses. And this is very significant for Indian farmers. Pulses include things like lentils, chickpeas, and kidney beans. India is the largest producer of pulses in the world. It's a sector that sustains more than 50 million farmers in India. 50 million. So this is not just any other crop. This is politically sensitive. Plus, the Commerce Minister had said that pulses were protected in the trade deal. Listen to what he said over the weekend.
I have absolutely no hesitation in sharing with you that amongst other things, we have not opened or given any concession to meat, to poultry, to any kind of GM foods or their products, any soya meal, corn, maize, makkah, cereals like rice and wheat, or millets like jawar, bajra, ragi, kodo or amaranth, amongst others, sugar, fruits which are produced in India like banana, strawberry, cherries, citrus fruits, pulses like green peas, kabuli chana, moong, where we have enough production, oil seeds, certain animal feed, groundnuts, honey, malt and its extracts.
So this point will need clarification. Are pulses part of the trade deal or not? And what does it mean for Indian farmers? Because right now, we import a negligible amount of pulses from the United States, just $89 million and mostly lentils. That's what we import. But are we going to expand that import substantially? And if yes, then what type of pulses will we import? Also, how much? Chances are this will be based on a quota. And that brings us to the second point of confusion. How much will India import from the United States? Goods worth $500 billion. The White House says India committed to buy US goods worth $500 billion. Again, this is different from what was said in the joint statement. The joint statement said India intends to buy. But now the White House says India committed to buy. So which is it? The Commerce Minister had clearly said that the clause was optional.
We intend to
so the engines
procure certain equipment. No, I've talked about aircraft engines and aircraft parts. We don't have to buy them. Again, repeating. Now let me explain to you. There's no such limitation. We estimate that the requirements that we have for import of certain items where the United States has the ability to sell to us. Things like crude oil, LNG, LPG, airplanes, their engines, their spare parts, coking coal. In the next 5 years, we estimate we will need $2 trillion of these products, where America has very good capabilities and capacity to support the Indian economy with high quality at competitive prices. So we hope they will offer us very competitive prices.
So is it optional or is it mandatory? If you look at the past statements, the confusion grows. Let me take you back to February 2025. Prime Minister Narendra Modi traveled to the United States. He met Donald Trump at the White House. And at that meeting, both leaders set an ambitious target. They called it Mission 500. Trump and Modi agreed to achieve $500 billion in bilateral trade. And this target was to be reached by 2030. So in 5 years, they wanted India-US bilateral trade to reach $500 billion. But now the trade deal flips that target. It is no longer $500 billion in bilateral trade. It is $500 billion in US imports alone. So what has changed between February 2025 and February 2026? That is the crucial question here. Beyond that, the Russian oil confusion remains. The White House fact sheet reiterates its earlier claim. It says India has agreed to cut off Russian oil, and that is why Trump has lifted the 25% tariff. As of now, India has not confirmed or denied this. India has not confirmed if it will indeed stop buying Russian oil. But the Americans keep repeating this as part of the deal. In fact, even last month, Russian oil was flowing freely into India. We're talking 1.1 million barrels of oil per day. Most experts say that this cannot be cut off overnight, and even if it was, the US and Venezuela cannot plug that gap. The logistics simply do not add up. Like we said last week, information is the key aspect here. India certainly clinched a better tariff rate than most Asian countries. I'm sure the negotiators did the best that they could. But right now, there is a vacuum. Our co-signatory, the United States, is revealing information almost every day. Meanwhile, in New Delhi, there is silence. It is important that India gets a grip on this story, because if you don't shape the narrative, you become the narrative. Bangladesh goes to polls in 2 days from now. It is arguably their most important election in decades, the first election since August 2024 when Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was ousted. The hope is that a fairly elected government will take over the reins of power in Dhaka. But Muhammad Yunus does not want to wait for that. For more than a year now, he has been the unelected ruler of Bangladesh, and before he leaves office, he is rushing with his agenda. So barely 48 hours before the polls begin, a major announcement was made. A trade deal between the United States and Bangladesh. You could call it the final act of the Yunus regime, an act with profound consequences. On the surface, this deal looks like a win for Dhaka, but dig deeper and it looks like capitulation. Let me tell you why. We'll start with the tariff rate. Earlier, Bangladesh faced a 20% tariff in the US. After the trade deal, it is 19% tariff. So it's a relief of 1%. And what about the tariff on US exports to Bangladesh? Well, as far as we can tell, there is no flat tariff number. Reports say Bangladesh has agreed to preferential tariffs. The tariff would vary by product. And this is unlike what India has done. India has cut tariffs on key US goods to zero. For Bangladesh, it's different tariffs for different goods. And what does Dhaka get in return? Well, the biggest concession is on clothing and textiles. Bangladeshi textile exports will face a 0% tariff in the United States. That looks like a big win for Dhaka, because the apparel industry is the backbone of their economy. Bangladesh is the world's second largest exporter of clothes. The biggest, of course, is China. Bangladesh is second, the second largest. 80% of Dhaka's export revenue comes from this sector, from the textile and apparel industry. It employs 4 million workers. So on paper, the zero tariff for Bangladeshi apparel looks like a relief. It also looks like a challenge for India. It could make India's cotton exports vulnerable. But there's more to it than meets the eye, because this 0% tariff is conditional. It applies to only a certain kind of apparel. The clothes should be made of American cotton or American synthetic fibers. Only these clothes will have zero tariffs. Meaning, Dhaka will first have to import these raw materials from the United States, then turn them into finished clothes, and then export those clothes to the United States. Only that finished product will get 0% tariff. So this is not free access, this is conditional access. And what has Dhaka agreed to give in return? Well, they've promised big purchases from the United States. Beyond the raw materials for clothes, they've agreed to buy agricultural products from the US, stuff like wheat, soy, cotton and corn. Dhaka has committed $3.5 billion for this, $3.5 billion. It has also agreed to buy energy products worth $15 billion. This will be over a period of 15 years. Also 25 aircraft from Boeing, which could be worth over $2 billion. These are all massive financial commitments, especially for a country which is still recovering from chaos, a country that still does not have an elected government in place. In 2 days, Bangladesh will vote for its next government. The campaigning ended today. The front runner, as we've been telling you, is the BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. It's the party of the late Prime Minister Khalida Zia. Her son Tariq Rahman is the front runner. He is the leading contender for the post of Prime Minister. Rahman has given an interview. He says stability is the need of the hour in his country. He is confident of winning a complete majority.
What we need at the moment in the country is peace, stability. To bring stability, we need peace. So that's why personally I believe that revenge will not bring us anything good. Rather, it will destroy many things.
Tariq Rahman has also apologized to the voters for any past mistakes committed by his party, the BNP, when they were in power. But even he knows that the first priority is to bring peace to Bangladesh. The security situation is fragile. Election violence has spiked. There are reports of targeted killings. At least 16 political activists have been killed since the poll schedule was announced. Campaigning has been marred by reports of shooting, clashes and threats of violence. Even the voters are concerned.
I don't want any more bad incidents in Bangladesh, a war-like situation. I hope students don't have to die anymore. We have done many things to make this country independent. And I think if such a mess doesn't happen anymore, and if the country wants to run smoothly, then a fair election is needed.
A secular country, a democratic country, I would love to Bangladesh to be, people to be free. People can wear what they want, do what they want without being morally policed, being harassed, as I'm talking about as a woman, so being harassed or talked down about.
Local authorities are raising an alarm. One report says they have recorded hundreds of violent incidents. Police have identified thousands of high-risk polling centers. These are high risk because these are centers where clashes are feared. Now, election violence, we know, is not new to Bangladesh, but this time the scale, the timing and the political stakes make it far more dangerous. And it doesn't help that the man who is supposed to ensure a free and fair election is busy striking last-minute deals with Washington. Will the UK lose yet another Prime Minister? We ask because the incumbent is under pressure. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is struggling to keep his job. There are calls for him to step down. His closest aides have resigned. His authority has weakened and names of replacements are already doing the rounds. Just minutes ago, Starmer was speaking to the public. He says he will never walk away from the country he loves, which means he is staying for now. The story, though, began last week. It began with a man called Peter Mandelson. He was a Labour Party heavyweight. He was also Britain's ambassador to the United States. His name appeared in the Epstein files. These are documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein. He was a convicted sex offender. He died in an American jail in 2019. He left behind diaries, notes and documents and a large body of commentary and evidence. This is collectively called the Epstein files. Now, Mandelson was named in the files. He was accused of selling government secrets, British government secrets. He sold them. In return, he took bribes from Epstein. That's the charge. Now, how is any of this Keir Starmer's fault? Well, Keir Starmer is the man who appointed Mandelson. He made Mandelson the British ambassador to the United States, and he did this despite knowing about the Epstein link. So he is being seen as guilty by association. There are calls for him to resign, and those calls are growing louder by the day.
The Prime Minister is the architect of his own misfortunes, and all of the chaos and instability we're seeing is completely self-inflicted. This is a Labour psychodrama right now. We're all living in Labour's psychodrama. Right now we have a government that's focusing purely on its own internal psychodrama. Enough of that. It is time for them to get a grip and start governing the country.
Well, here's what happened this week. On Monday night, Keir Starmer faced his MPs. It was a packed room. The Prime Minister did not apologise or hint at resignation. Instead, he said he will stay on in office. Meanwhile, two of his aides resigned. One is Morgan McSweeney. He was Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff. He quit on Sunday. The other is Tim Allen. He was the Director of Communications. He resigned yesterday. And then came a public warning. It came from Anas Sarwar. He is the leader of the Scottish Labour Party. He has publicly asked Prime Minister Keir Starmer to go.
My first priority and my first loyalty is to my country, Scotland. And I am not willing to sacrifice Scotland's NHS, our schools, our communities, our towns, cities, villages and islands to a third decade of an SNP government. That's why the distraction needs to end and the leadership in Downing Street has to change.
Now, in British politics, this is a big deal. This is a regional leader breaking ranks with the party. That could spell more trouble for Keir Starmer. So what did the Labour Party do? They went into damage control mode. Senior ministers are posting on social media. They're putting out messages of support. Every single cabinet minister has backed Keir Starmer. At least publicly they have backed him. But the problem has not gone away, because Starmer personally appointed Peter Mandelson as US ambassador. It is one of the most sensitive diplomatic jobs in Britain. Starmer knew that Mandelson had links with Epstein, although he now says he was misled, that he did not know the full story. That defense may be legally safe, but politically it is problematic. And now two of his most powerful aides are gone. In Westminster, losing your chief of staff is never just a staffing change. It is a sign that your authority is shaky. So what happens next? Three things could decide Keir Starmer's fate. First, the Mandelson documents. Thousands of messages are yet to be published. Starmer believes that these documents will prove that Mandelson lied to him. But if the messages reveal confusion or ignored warnings, it could be a death knell for Starmer. Second, a crucial by-election is coming up later this month. If Labour performs badly, MPs will panic. They will think that the voters are sending them a message. And third, there are elections in May, in Scotland, in Wales, and in England's local council. If Labour loses these elections, Starmer will be in trouble.
He won't be there for long. He'll be gone and replaced by somebody undoubtedly far worse. It took the Conservatives 14 years, 14 long years of disaster to get into the mess they did, and this mob have managed it within a space of 18 months. I suppose you've got to admire it, really.
But can the Labour Party even remove him? Well, here's the twist. It's not easy to remove a sitting Prime Minister. There's no big red eject button. A leadership challenge would take weeks. Confidence votes are messy. Cabinet resignations can work, but only if someone leads the charge. And right now, no one is stepping forward. And that brings us to the biggest problem of all. If not Keir Starmer, then who? The most popular choice in the Labour Party is Angela Rayner. She is a former Deputy Prime Minister, but she faces a tax investigation. Then there's Wes Streeting. He is the UK Health Secretary, but he too had ties with Mandelson. And the third name is Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary and a party insider. If she rises, she would make history. She would become Britain's first Muslim Prime Minister. But she is divisive for her immigration stance. So basically, there is no obvious successor. Every name comes with baggage, which is why the Labour Party is hesitating. Toppling Keir Starmer without a clear replacement could make things worse. And that is why Keir Starmer is still standing. The question is, for how long? For weeks now, we have been asking one question. Will the United States attack Iran? Now, we don't have an answer. Thankfully, there have been no missile strikes or attacks. But this silence does not guarantee peace. The tension has not gone away, it has simply shifted shape. It is making the oil markets nervous. This week, the US issued a formal warning, a warning to its oil tankers. We're talking about US-flagged vessels, especially those moving through the Strait of Hormuz. The American advisory made 3 points. 1, stay as far away from Iranian waters as possible. 2, stick close to Oman's coast. And 3, if Iranian forces board your vessel, do not resist. AKA, be prepared for the worst case scenario. That is the US advisory. That is what it told its oil tankers. And the reaction was immediate. Oil prices went up, not because of an attack, but because of the fear of one. Now, the Strait of Hormuz may look small on a map, but it is a very important passageway. On one side sits Iran, on the other is Oman, and 20% of the world's oil passes through it. It is the world's most important oil choke point. Any disruption here in the Strait of Hormuz sends oil prices soaring. More importantly, it affects the whole world. And look at the backdrop of these developments. The US is building its military presence in West Asia. It has deployed an aircraft carrier strike group. That's the USS Abraham Lincoln. It's in the Arabian Sea. It is one of the biggest warships on the planet. Plus, US military jets are parked in the region, and nearly 40,000 US troops are present in West Asia. Basically, Washington is gearing up for conflict. Meanwhile, Iran has conducted naval drills in Hormuz. At the same time, both sides are also talking.
We likewise had very good talks on Iran. Iran looks like it wants to make a deal very badly. We have to see what that deal is. But I think Iran looks like they want to make a deal very badly, as they should. Last time they decided maybe not to do it, but I think they probably feel differently. We'll see what the deal is. It'll be different than last time.
So diplomacy is on in full swing. The US and Iran held indirect talks in Oman. As we speak, Iran's top security official is in Oman. A second round of talks has been confirmed, but no date has been announced, and that uncertainty alone is keeping the tensions alive.
The Muscat meeting, which was not a long session, was in fact a half-day meeting. From our perspective, it was aimed at assessing the seriousness of the other side and the potential course of the process. Accordingly, this meeting generally focused more on the broader picture.
The core issue in these talks is Iran's nuclear program. They are enriching uranium to 60% purity. Weapons-grade uranium begins at 90%. Iran is already at 60%. It insists that it is not building a bomb, but the West is not convinced. The US wants Iran to stop enriching uranium. So far, Tehran has rejected that demand, but recently they made a shift. Iran hinted that it could dilute its highly enriched uranium. Of course, it wants something in return. Iran wants the US to lift all sanctions. So there are a lot of loose ends. And amid all of this, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is heading to Washington. On top of his agenda are Iran's missiles. As you would know, Iran and Israel are arch enemies. And Israel's position has been clear. Any deal that ignores Iran's ballistic missile program is unacceptable. You see, the Israelis are worried. They fear that Trump may accommodate Iran, that he may give more concessions than Israel would like. So to prevent that, Netanyahu is flying to Washington to talk to Trump. And Tehran is not happy about it. It says Israel is actively sabotaging diplomacy.
Fundamentally, the root cause of turning Iran's nuclear issue, Iran's peaceful nuclear program, into an artificial crisis has been the Zionist regime, which for around 40 years has repeatedly claimed that Iran is pursuing a nuclear bomb and has sought to impose a kind of imaginary fear on the world over Iran's non-existent nuclear bomb.
So where does this go now? No attacks immediately. And we say that because of two reasons. Number one, deterrence is working. Both sides know that escalation would be devastating. And number two, regional players want calm. Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, none of them wants a war. So the US and Iran are stuck in a limbo. This is not war, but it's not peace either. As long as the US keeps its military deployed near Iran, as long as Iran keeps enriching uranium, and as long as Israel keeps pushing for tougher terms, the region will remain in a state of flux. When we talk about India's European partners, which are the countries that come to mind? Maybe France or the UK, or more recently, Italy. But nowadays, one relationship is galloping forward, and that is Greece and India. Yesterday, the Greek defense minister was in New Delhi. He visited the National War Memorial. He also inspected a tri-service guard of honor. Take a look at this. After that came the talks. The minister was hosted by his Indian counterpart, that's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Both leaders signed two crucial agreements. The first was a joint declaration on defence industrial cooperation, basically on making weapons together. The plan is to create a 5-year roadmap for production. Secondly, they exchanged a military cooperation document for 2026. Basically, what drills will be held this year, where will they be held, what will be practiced, and things like that. Greece is also deploying a liaison officer in India. They will be attached to an Indian Navy undertaking in Gurugram. Beyond this, the delegation visited Bengaluru. They interacted with state-owned defence firms and startups. The question is, what is driving this closeness? Rajnath Singh said, this relationship was rooted in shared values and the rule of law. He also thanked Greece for its support after the Pahalgam attack.
Our relations are based on shared values of peace, stability, freedom, and the rule of law. Excellency, let me also take this opportunity to thank the government of Greece for support on issues of core interest to India, including cross-border terrorism. I also thank your government for a strong condemnation of Pahalgam terror attack and solidarity extended to India in the fight against cross-border terrorism.
The Greek minister also praised India. He said he sees New Delhi as an upcoming superpower and as a partner who values global rules and freedoms. Listen in.
We see India as a key partner, as a friend, but also as an upcoming superpower. Our cooperation is already becoming operational through many exercises we do together, as we share a principled approach: respect for sovereignty, respect for international law, respect for freedom of navigation, foundations of regional peace and global trade, and of course, of combating terrorism.
All in all, a solid trip. And it's not an isolated one either. In 2023, Prime Minister Narendra Modi travelled to Greece. The next year, in 2024, the Greek Prime Minister visited India. And later this month, he will once again travel to New Delhi, this time for the AI Summit. So what exactly is driving this growth in ties? There are many factors at play. The first is Turkey. Greece and Turkey have a long-standing rivalry. They have competing claims over the Aegean Sea and its resources. Both sides have repeatedly come to the brink of war. The most recent flashpoint was in 2020. Turkish and Greek warships faced off at sea. Even border troops on both sides were on high alert. So the relationship between Ankara and Athens is problematic. But why is that significant for India? Because Turkey is a key supporter of Pakistan. They are the second biggest arms supplier to Islamabad. During last year's India-Pakistan conflict, they openly supported Pakistan. The Turks openly supported Pakistan. So New Delhi is returning the favor. You back our enemy, we back yours. That's the thinking here. And it's not limited to Greece, by the way. India is supporting two other Turkish rivals. One is Cyprus to the south. The other is Armenia to the east. Both countries have signed defense deals with India. And both countries, Cyprus and Armenia, have a running feud with Ankara. It's basically a response to Turkish designs in South Asia. What India is doing is a response to Turkish designs in South Asia. Turkey supports Pakistan. They're selling drones to the Maldives. They're selling tanks to Bangladesh. So naturally, India has to defend its interests. But that alone does not explain this outreach. The second factor is trade. India is part of an ambitious economic corridor. It is called the IMEC, the India Middle East Economic Corridor. The plan is to link India to Europe via sea lanes and railways, sort of like an alternative to the Suez Canal. This route passes through the Arabian Peninsula and empties into the Mediterranean Sea. And the final port of entry is Greece. It's a perfect fit for both countries. Greece and India have ancient maritime traditions. In modern times, Greece has emerged as a shipping powerhouse with 5,000 plus vessels. It has the largest fleet in the world. In recent years, Greece has ceded ground to builders in Asia, but they still have the technology and the know-how. Meanwhile, India has the steel. India has the young labor. It's a key area of cooperation between both countries, India and Greece. Beyond that, weapons are a big attraction. Reports say India has offered multiple systems to Greece, like the Pinaka rockets, Tata's armored infantry vehicles, and mounted guns. Last year, India reportedly offered a cruise missile as well. We've not seen any deals concluded so far, but the trajectory of this relationship gives us hope. There is a lot of potential on the table. It's all about harnessing it. Now let's shift our focus to South Korea, where a cryptocurrency exchange has made a big blunder. This could be one of the most expensive mistakes in financial history. This story is about BitHum. It is South Korea's second largest crypto platform. Last week, they ran a promotional campaign. The exchange was giving out small cash prizes, just a few $100s each, but instead of issuing them in the Korean won, they sent Bitcoin, 620,000 Bitcoins to be exact. And their value was a whopping $40 billion. That is 14 times more Bitcoin than what this platform owns. So now the exchange is trying to recover the money, but it won't be so easy. Our next report has more.
South Korea's second largest cryptocurrency exchange has made a mistake worth $40 billion. BitHum sent 620,000 bitcoins to customers by accident. That is 14 times more Bitcoin than the exchange actually owns. And now they are scrambling to get it back. It happened on the 6th of February. BitHum was running a promotional event. They called it a random box campaign. The plan was simple: send small prizes to 695 qualifying customers. The total prize pool was 620,000 won. That is roughly $423. But an employee made an error, a catastrophic one. Instead of entering the amount in Korean won, they entered it in Bitcoin. So instead of 620,000 won, customers received 620,000 bitcoins. The value? $42 billion. Of the 695 eligible customers, 249 opened their prize boxes. They saw the bitcoin in their accounts. Some thought it was real, some knew it was a mistake. But 86 of them acted fast. They sold the bitcoin. They had 35 minutes before BitHum froze the accounts. In that window, 1,788 bitcoins were sold. Some customers withdrew the money to personal bank accounts. Others used it to buy different cryptocurrencies. The sales triggered a brief price drop on BitHum's platform. And by the time the exchange caught the error, the damage was done. BitHum has now corrected 99.7% of the mistaken credits. They reversed the internal ledger entries. They issued an apology, but about 13 billion won remains unrecovered. That is $9 million. The exchange is now holding what it calls one-on-one persuasion talks. They are asking roughly 80 customers to return the money voluntarily. BitHum wants to avoid civil lawsuits, because under South Korean civil law, courts could order customers to return the original asset. not its cash equivalent. And here is where it gets complicated. Bitcoin prices have risen since the 6th of February. That means customers who sold may now face losses if they are forced to return the cryptocurrency. They would have to buy Bitcoin at a higher price to return it. Legal experts are divided on whether criminal charges could follow. In 2021, South Korea's Supreme Court ruled that cryptocurrency does not constitute property under criminal law, so prosecution may not be straightforward. But civil liability is another matter entirely. The governor of South Korea's Financial Supervisory Service called the incident catastrophic. His name is Lee Chan-jin. He said the mistake exposed structural problems in how exchanges operate their internal ledger systems. A full investigation is now underway. South Korea's parliament has also stepped in. They have scheduled an emergency hearing for the 11th of February. Both BitHum and financial authorities will be questioned. The pressure is mounting. BitHum insists the incident was not caused by external hacking. It was not a security breach. Customer assets were not at risk. This was purely an internal error, a human mistake. In their apology, BitHum said they are redesigning the entire asset payment process. They are enhancing internal controls. They want to prevent this from happening again, but the damage is already done. This is not just a story about one exchange. It raises questions about the safeguards in place across the cryptocurrency industry. How could such a massive error go unnoticed until after customers had already acted? Why were there no checks in the system? For now, BitHum is trying to recover what it can. It is relying on persuasion, not legal force. But for the customers who sold, the situation is far from clear. They may be asked to return money they have already spent, or Bitcoin they no longer have. This is a cautionary tale for an industry built on speed, automation, and trust. And it is a reminder that even in the digital age, human error can still cause chaos.
NVIDIA is looking to shake up India's gaming landscape, and for that, they have a secret weapon. It's not some gaming console, it's not a new game, it's actually a cloud service. NVIDIA calls it GeForce Now. Right now, the service is being trialed in Mumbai. Pretty soon, it will be rolled out across the country, and the selling point is this. You can play the most advanced games without a special system. No consoles, no expensive gaming computers, even your old laptop could do the trick. As a concept, it already exists across the world. It is called cloud gaming. But NVIDIA is basically turbocharging it. Let me explain how. NVIDIA has built special gaming data centers around the world. Right now, they have 30 centers in 110 countries. In India, their data center is in Mumbai. And what's inside? Powerful computers with NVIDIA's advanced chips. In this case, the RTX 5080 Super Pods. Basically, cutting-edge gaming cards or chips. Now we come to the actual gaming. Let's say you play games on your phone or laptop. First, you download the game, then you install the game, and finally, your phone or laptop runs it. That is how traditional gaming has always worked. But not in GeForce Now. In this case, you are streaming the game. NVIDIA has around 4,000 games in their data centers. All you have to do is use their app or their website to access GeForce Now. And you can use any device, your iPhone, your iPad, your smart TV, your old laptop, whatever you have. Basically, anything with a screen and internet is good. I know what you're thinking. My own laptop does not have cutting-edge chips or graphics cards. How can it run these advanced games? Well, that's the thing. Your computer is not running these games. The NVIDIA computers in the data center will do that for you. They will run the game and stream it to your device. It's a bit like Netflix for movies. You don't actually download or install the content. They're stored on Netflix servers. Your TV or phone is basically just streaming that content from the cloud. Now, when you do this for games, it's called cloud gaming. Like I said, this is not a new concept. For example, Microsoft has Xbox Cloud Gaming. You pay a fee and you can access Microsoft's catalog. Just one problem though, it is painfully slow. You press a button and it takes a while to register on the game. Obviously, this kills the experience. But is NVIDIA's cloud gaming any better? Well, the trials were only done in Mumbai, and Mumbai is where the NVIDIA servers are located, so tech journalists were quite happy about the outcome. They said that there was no delay or streaming issues. The question is, will it be the same after a nationwide rollout? Maybe in some remote hills in northeast India or up north in Punjab or Haryana. That is the real test for this NVIDIA service. Their chips give them an edge over their competitors, but internet speeds and server lag will be a problem. And this is not just an NVIDIA story, it's a story about cloud gaming in general. This industry was worth around $3.3 billion in 2024. It is projected to reach $120 billion by 2035, and this is despite the internet and streaming issues. They're growing despite those issues. Most gamers agree that cloud gaming has serious challenges. Then what explains this growth trajectory? Well, mainly the cost. A good gaming computer costs more than 1.5 lakh rupees, which is around 16,000 US dollars. The latest PlayStation costs more than 50,000 rupees, which is around $500. Compare that to an Xbox Cloud subscription. It's around 500 rupees per month. As for NVIDIA, the prices are not out yet. So as a concept, cloud gaming is more accessible, it is more affordable. Plus the world is staring at a chip shortage. You need chips for cars, weapons and AI platforms, so gaming has fallen down the pecking order. Maybe that's why firms are betting on cloud gaming. But the problem remains technical. How can you guarantee perfect streaming? How can you ensure there is no lag? How can you ensure fast internet speeds? That's where cloud gaming faces challenges. Let's see if NVIDIA can crack the code. Australia is in the headlines for a wave of protests. Protests triggered by a high-profile diplomatic visit. Israel's president is in Australia on a 4-day visit. This is meant to show solidarity with the Jewish community in Australia after a deadly attack in Sydney in December last year, December 2025. But the visit has ignited anger among pro-Palestine Australians. Demonstrations have broken out in Sydney and Melbourne, and in some places, they've even turned to clashes with police. Arrests have been made. Security has been tightened. Our next report has more.
Crowds marching through city streets. Police forming lines. Protesters shouting as officers move in to make arrests. These are the scenes playing out in Australia this week. From Sydney to Melbourne, thousands have taken to the streets. They are protesting the visit of Israel's President Isaac Herzog. What began as a diplomatic trip has turned into days of demonstrations. And in some cities, direct clashes with police. In Sydney, protesters gathered in the central business district. They waved Palestinian flags and held banners. Some tried to march into areas that had been declared off-limits.
Inviting this man here at this time, conflating issues that have nothing to do with each other, just an appalling abdication of responsibility and humanity.
Police moved in to stop them. Officers used pepper spray as scuffles broke out. At least 27 people have been arrested, according to the police. Several have been charged with assaulting officers. Videos from the rally show these confrontations. In one instance, police officers were filmed grabbing a woman by her scarf. Authorities later defended their actions.
What we saw was a large number of people come out to George Street at the end of the protest, or certainly at the end of the speeches, and march on police. Not once, but twice. The police did what they needed to do.
Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said he was devastated by the violence. He said people should be able to protest peacefully. But in a balancing act, he also said police had clearly set out approved routes for the march. The protests are tied directly to Herzog's 4-day visit. It comes after last year's December shooting at a Hanukkah event at Sydney's Bondi Beach. 15 people were killed in that attack. Herzog has come to support the Jewish community. At a memorial near Bondi Beach, he laid a wreath for the victims. He has said people of all faiths must stand together against violence.
And so, in the wake of the horror at Bondi Beach, Michal and I felt we must come to Australia to look you in the eye, to show up for you. We've come here not simply to tell you that we are with you, but to show you that we are with you.
But the visit has drawn fierce anger. Pro-Palestinian groups accuse Herzog of being complicit in the war in Gaza. Some protesters say his presence deepens divisions. Others argue he should not have been invited at all.
I was really clear when Herzog was invited that it just seemed really inappropriate. I mean, there's been no acknowledgement about what's been happening in Gaza, and there's no acknowledgement of war crimes.
Not everyone agrees. Many Jewish Australians have welcomed Herzog. There is tight security in place. Authorities have given police expanded powers to control crowds. That includes restricting access to certain areas and directing protesters to move. For now, though, the demonstrations show no sign of stopping. And neither does the controversy surrounding the Israeli president's visit.
Our next story takes us to the Horn of Africa, where tensions are escalating between two neighbors, Ethiopia and Eritrea. These countries share a long and troubled history, and as we speak, they're trading charges on troop movement, on supporting armed groups, and on escalating tensions along their border. The last time these two neighbors went to war, tens of thousands of people were killed, and the entire region was destabilized. That rhetoric is hardening again. So is another war brewing? That's what we'll look at tonight, and we'll begin with the accusations. Ethiopia has accused Eritrea of military aggression. It says Eritrean troops are on its soil, they're supporting armed groups, and they should withdraw. Last week, the Ethiopian foreign minister sent a letter to Eritrea. The letter made a demand: pull back your troops from Ethiopian territory.
Developments over the last few days indicate that the government of Eritrea has chosen the path of further escalation.
And how did Eritrea respond? It has denied these claims. It says this is a hostile campaign by Ethiopia and that Eritrea has no troops in Ethiopian territory.
The patently false and fabricated accusations against Eritrea is astounding in its tone and substance. As underlined before, the government of Eritrea has no appetite for or desire to engage in meaningless acrimony to add fuel and exacerbate the situation.
So you have two neighbors making two very different claims and feeding the mistrust and tension. Although this tension did not erupt recently, it has been building for months. Look at what happened earlier this month. Ethiopia's Prime Minister spoke in Parliament. His name is Abiy Ahmed. He said the problems with Eritrea go way back.
Some people think the current dispute between Ethiopia and Eritrea stems from the Ethiopian government's request for access to the sea. They think and analyze it that way. However, this is not the case. Since the existence of Eritrea, there have been issues between Ethiopia and Eritrea.
İthiyopya alıştırıcı.
Well, that statement is important. It shows how deeply rooted their conflict is. For those who do not know their history, here's a quick primer. Eritrea was once part of Ethiopia. It fought a long war for independence, and finally in 1993 it became a separate country. Eritrea became a separate country. But the peace did not last. 5 years later, they were fighting again. There was a war in 1998, triggered by a border dispute. This war lasted for about 2 years. It left thousands of people dead. Finally, a peace deal was secured, but the border remained disputed. And for years, diplomatic ties remained frozen. Then in 2018, there came a turning point. Abiy Ahmed became Ethiopia's prime minister. He made peace with Eritrea. And for that, he even won the Nobel Peace Prize. Then, for a while, the two countries became allies. They fought together in an internal conflict in Ethiopia, the Tigray War. Between 2020 and 2022, Eritrea and Ethiopia fought together in the Tigray War. But when a peace deal was sealed, Eritrea was left out of it. So the alliance unraveled. And since then, relations have gone downhill. Ethiopia now accuses Eritrea of supporting rebel groups, and Eritrea accuses Ethiopia of hostile propaganda. Plus, there's another point of contention, that is access to the sea. You see, Ethiopia is a landlocked country. It had a coastline when Eritrea was a part of it, but when Eritrea became independent, when it became a different country, Ethiopia lost direct access to the sea. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says access to a port is crucial. He calls it an existential need for his country. And Eritrea sees this as a threat. It fears that Ethiopia may try to force its way to the coast. Now, when you put all of this together, you see how complex this equation is and how tension has been building on many, many fronts. This does not bode well for the region. The Horn of Africa is already fragile. It has faced wars, droughts, and displacements. Another conflict would be devastating. And despite the talk of dialogue, neither side is stepping back. Our final story tonight is about diabetes and how it is diagnosed in India. Most patients are assessed using a common blood test. It is called the HbA1c test. This test measures your average blood sugar levels over months. In India, it is often treated as the gold standard. This is how you test if someone has diabetes or not. But now a new study is out, and it is raising serious questions. It says this test may not be reliable for many Indians, and that certain health conditions can alter the readings, which means some cases could be missed while others could be detected late. So what does this study really say? And should one test be enough for a diagnosis? Our next report explains.
A single number can decide if you are diabetic or not. It can shape your treatment. It can influence the medicines you take and the advice you receive. That number often comes from a blood test called HbA1c. In India, it is one of the most commonly used diabetes tests. Doctors use it to track how well blood sugar is controlled. But a new study says this test may be lying to millions of Indian patients. The research is published in the Lancet Regional Health Journal, and it warns that relying on HbA1c alone could mislead doctors and patients. But first, what exactly is HbA1c? It is a blood test that shows average sugar levels over 2 to 3 months. It works by measuring how much sugar sticks to hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen. If blood sugar is high, more sugar sticks to it. That pushes the HbA1c number up. The test is simple. It does not require fasting, and results are quick. That's why in India, it is often treated as the gold standard for diabetes diagnosis. But here's the problem. India's population has unique health factors that can distort this test. Many Indians have anemia. That means lower or unhealthy red blood cells. Others have inherited blood disorders like thalassemia or sickle cell disease. Some have G6PD deficiency, a condition that affects red blood cells. All of these can throw HbA1c readings off. If red blood cells break down faster, HbA1c may appear lower than it should. If there is iron deficiency anemia, it may appear higher. In both the cases, the numbers are lying, and that has real consequences. Researchers say this could delay diagnosis. In some cases, diabetes may be detected years later than it should be. That raises the risk of complications. The warning is especially significant for India. It has the second largest diabetes population in the world after China. Around 90 million Indians live with diabetes. And anemia is also widespread. That combination makes accurate testing critical. So what should patients do? Doctors stress that HbA1c is still useful, but it should not be the only test. They recommend combining it with other methods. One is the oral glucose tolerance test. This checks how the body handles sugar after a drink containing glucose. Another is regular home monitoring with a glucometer. Some patients may also use continuous glucose monitoring devices. These are small sensors that track sugar levels through the day. So several tests, which are done together, is a better option. It helps doctors avoid misdiagnosis and also helps them start treatment on time. But there's a larger concern. If national surveys rely only on HbA1c, India's diabetes numbers could be inaccurate. That affects planning, funding, and important public health decisions. So the message from researchers is simple. HbA1c remains important, but in India, it cannot stand alone. Because for millions, one number is unlikely to give them the full picture of their health.
The 7 days leading up to February 14th are now officially called Valentine's Week. Every day comes with a label: Rose Day, Propose Day, Chocolate Day. It's less a festival of love and more a marketing calendar, unless of course you're a normal person, in which case you're worried about work deadlines and whether your salary will last till the end of the month. Not which flower symbolizes your emotional availability. And yes, spare a thought for the single people. After a week of hearts, roses and relationship flexing, they are officially done. Take a look. Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Fighter jets roar over Riyadh as Saudi Arabia hosts a massive world defense show. US Vice President J.D. Vance visits Yerevan and pays a tribute to the Armenian Genocide Memorial. And an astronaut shows off his yo-yo skills at the International Space Station. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 1940, the first Tom and Jerry cartoon, Puss Gets the Boot, was released. It introduced audiences to a quarrelsome cat and mouse duo with no dialogue and no reinvention. The simple rivalry turned into one of pop culture's longest running shows. 86 years later, Tom and Jerry remain global icons. We're leaving you on this note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
power doesn't end quietly. Some deaths are not accidents. They are messages. A gunshot. A crowd. A country frozen. The killer disappears. The questions don't. This is not just about who died. It's about what followed. Governments fell. Armies moved. History rewrote itself. 5 leaders. 5 moments. One pattern. The assassination.